It's first principles thinking. How do we get back to the roots of how a kid is successful when they leave the nest? This
Mm.
is it. We've spent a lot of time and money as a society moving in directions that aren't directly impacting our kids' future for the better.
Right.
Smart money parenting.
Hey guys, this is Scott. Welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Parenting. Today we're going to switch things up just a little bit, and we're going to show you a recording from my co-author, Lee Benson. He and I wrote the book Value Creation Kid: The Healthy Struggles Your Children Need to Succeed. And we did a deep dive into the book for our book launch. The book just hit Wall Street Journal bestselling list, and we've gotten a ton of great feedback on that recording. And so we thought, well, why don't we just give it out to the families for the Smart Money Parenting Show? So without further ado, we're going to bring you into a deep dive with Lee Benson and myself, Scott Donnell, and Kary Oberbrunner, our publisher, talking to us about Value Creation Kid, what it means. And I want you just to listen to some of the mindsets and some of the ways to make financial competency operational in the home. So you're going to get a lot of good value today. And if you like the episode, please share it, send it out to somebody who needs to hear it, and enjoy.
Hey, everybody, we are here. We are having a party. We're already
Woo!
laughing, having a good time. And I'm here with the amazing co-authors. I have Scott Donnell and I have Lee Benson. Guys, it's launch day. How you doing?
Doing amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Cheers. It's a
Oh,
huge day. We're
it
very
is a huge
excited over
day.
here.
It is a huge day. We have people that are going to be popping on so many channels. In fact, we do that on purpose. So even if you see the viewers, you're only going to see it on one channel. But here's where we got it going. We got it on Twitter. We got it on LinkedIn. We have it on YouTube. We have it on multiple Facebook groups. So people are starting to find it. They're starting to comment. We have Tanisha saying, hey, by the way, tell us where you're from, everybody. Here's your project manager, Travis. And we're just going to keep blowing this out. We're going to have giveaways today. So everybody listen, we're going to have the most engaged person is going to get a grand prize. So be ready. And Scott, I'll tell you what, man, I was with you in Chicago yesterday. I saw you speaking to the world's top entrepreneurs on this topic. Lee, this is your second book with us, man. We got so much to talk about, but Scott, let's do a first check-in with you. How you feeling, man?
Feel good. Feel good. This has been a wild whirlwind week, man. I just had a buddy I was on the phone with just before this. He was like, how do I get you to the next number one? Because we've already hit what, 3 or 4 number ones.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he's like,
Going
what's
up.
the next one? I was like, well, I think we hit family and development, family relationships. We hit the economics and the healing and spiritual. We hit all these categories.
It's blowing
And
up.
financial literacy is like the core here. And so he said, right in the middle of the call, he goes, oh, by the way, he sent an email to 13,000 people
Oh my gosh.
like just a few minutes ago.
Oh
So
my gosh. I
it's
love it.
ripping. We're having fun. I think people are really, really resonating here because, financial competency
Yeah.
is the biggest gap in education. It's not taught in schools. It's not taught at home. Parents
Yeah.
don't know how to teach this.
That's
And,
absolutely. Yeah.
teachers feel unqualified and worried about if they misstep in this. And kids don't learn about money through homework. They just
Mm.
don't. And
No.
that's why people have been trying to do this for decades, but it's not moving the needle. And so you have to have a very specific way of doing it, which is why our book and the app and the gamification of all this actually gets kids across the line to break that generational poverty and to help parents who love this pass it on to their kids the right way so it sticks for life.
It's so good. Lee, I knew you only work with high level people, and I know you and your company were attracted to GravyStack. The book is really Value Creation Kid.
There it is.
There it is. And Lee gave away all of his copies already.
Well,
Sold them all.
I had a stack here, and everybody that shows up at my home studio office wants me to give them one, sign one, go through it. So, and somebody else on this call grabbed my last 25 and took them out. His name is Scott, by the way.
I
That's
grabbed
right.
them all because I was going to this event and they're all gone. They're all gone. Everyone just took them right away.
Well, we've got
Listen, the book, by the way, the book turned out beautiful. I mean, the color, the imagery, the edgy subtitle. The healthy struggles your children need to succeed. I'll tell you what, Lee Benson, those are fighting words in a lot of circles. Why is it true, though?
Yeah, the main reason that I'm involved with this project is to create sort of this environment within families where kids learn how to create value in the world. That's
Mm,
it. So financial competency is part of it, but creating value can be material value, it can be emotional energy value, which in my view is the scarcest commodity on the planet, and it can be spiritual value, and it can be any combination in all those buckets.
mm.
And the biggest challenge or opportunity, I would say, that we're trying to get at is that there are so many books and so many courses and so many videos that, hey, kids watch this and they think if they just watch that, it's going to be incredible. But what adults don't seem to understand or think about, at least the majority of them, is that if it took you more than 10 years to really understand something,
Mm.
how do you think you can explain that character and wisdom and experience into anybody else, let alone kids? Right. So
Wow.
what Scott and I have done here, we've come up with something called the GravyStack method with 4 components: value creation, how you talk about it in the family, getting everybody to understand that, getting them to understand that the purpose of an education is to create value in the world, not get a good grade, get a diploma, get a degree, get a job. And then second, house rules. What's your job for the family? And everything that goes in there and how each other interact, within the family. And then third, financial competency. It really is kind of a foundation for maintaining a lifestyle to make the difference in the world, live the life you want over time. So everybody should launch into adulthood, in our view, that can think critically. They're financially literate, financially competent, as financially independent as they want to be. And then the fourth component is all about healthy struggle. Like, understand, and Scott and I talk about in the book this value creation sort of journey or cycle.
Yes.
There's a healthy struggle to get a capability which builds confidence, and don't stop there. Use that to actually create value in the world. And
Yes.
every single kid I talk to gets this. Even some kids that are actually just new adults, 19, 20, 21, they're writing it down, they're texting me, emailing me, talk more about this. Because I would ask the question, so what's some capability you would like to have? And they almost always say, well, I've got a whole list of things that I want. Well, okay, but what are the 1, 2, 3 max that you want to use to create value?
Mm,
So
mm.
it's gonna be a struggle to get there. One kid I talked to recently, he wanted to get his real estate license, so he's 19. I guess he's technically an adult. And I said, okay, well, there's going to be some struggle. You're challenged taking tests and doing other things. But once you get that capability, your confidence grows, and then you use it to create value. And he says, oh my gosh, you've completely changed my whole perspective and how I think about things. That was a
Very good.
15-minute conversation. So what Scott and I believe we have here is something that will resonate in virtually every single family. And I am most interested in low income and middle income families.
Yes.
We get it right there. Everything goes.
See,
Wow.
here's the deal. Parents that have money have no clue how to pass on these skills to their kids. We
Mm,
surveyed 1,000 people, and all 1,000 parents were like, I don't have a roadmap,
mm.
even if my kids will listen in the first place. And then I know the schools aren't teaching it, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And they're worried about spoiling their kids or making their kids become entitled. Right.
Yeah.
Well, the parents that don't necessarily have the knowledge and they're maybe struggling to make ends meet, well, they have some shame or guilt or fear about trying to talk about these things with their kids. So then their kids don't get it either. And that's how the generational issues continue.
Mm.
So what we realized is if you can set up this GravyStack method system, value creation, house rules, financial competency, and healthy struggle. And by
So
the way, healthy struggle is not trauma. It's not tough love.
Mm.
Keeping a deep relationship with your kids and helping them go through this cycle of healthy struggles to create capabilities, confidence, and more value in the world, it sets it up. It just sets it up. And it's also kid motivated.
Mm.
It's an intrinsic motivation because
I love
once they start building the capability and the confidence, they will move up. They will learn these things on their own with mom and dad so that there's none of that fear or shame or guilt or just ignorance. They don't know what to do. It's a simple roadmap for the entire family. And
Mm.
that's why I think this is really starting to rip. I mean, people are sharing it with everybody. And we're very, very pumped.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's resonating, and to add to that, unless you operationalize it within a family, make it how the family operates. I mean, really simply said there, Everything else falls in the category of a motivational nudge. And
Mm.
for a very small percentage of kids, that's going to probably work and shift them in a completely different, amazing direction. But for most kids, it won't. So the goal is create this environment where kids understand and eventually discover what their value creation superpower is. And that guides them in everything they learn and everything they do, all the way towards, again, Scott, and my goal here is to launch kids out of high school into these amazing adults that can think critically. Everything they do is all about creating better conditions to work, live, learn, and play for their family, their friends, the communities that they engage with. Imagine that.
Mm.
I've always had this, for decades now, this vision of if every person on the planet had one more unit of material value, emotional energy value, and spiritual value than they consumed, what would be different?
Wow.
Like, it's just incredible when you think about
Everything would be different.
what the potential is here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, there is quite a buzz about this book already. You nailed it. I mean, you said you can't get much better than that. Number one, number one, number one. And there's some that are even off the charts here. You cracked the top 100 of all books on Amazon, which is like every category. And there are millions and millions of books out there. Why do you think our world is kind of like waking up and saying, look, handouts are not the answer. Victimhood is not the answer. I know you have A for Arizona, like you're in school systems. Why is there such a reception of this message?
Yeah, Lee, I'll go real quick, and you should talk about A for Arizona. My quick background, I've served over 6 million kids in the education system. We created the largest school fundraising franchise in America. So we've taught character and leadership and fitness for over a decade to tens of thousands of schools. And this was the biggest gap that we saw in the education system. Kids are not learning the core principles of value creation.
Hmm.
A lot of, like Lee said earlier, a lot of the education system is pass the test so that the teacher keeps their job, so that the Common Core standards are met, so that you can get a good grade, go to a good college, get a good degree, and then get a job, and then repeat the cycle. None of that is actually talking about how are we adding value to the world. How are we using our gifts, our talents, our skills, my gifts and talents and skills to elevate myself and the people around me? That's why I think we have so much of these issues, so much of the mental health issues in teenagers. So, trillions of dollars of student loan debt, the country's in crisis, people are becoming polarized. And I think what happens is if you don't learn the capabilities and confidence, you get stuck.
Yep.
If you have high capability and high confidence by going through the healthy struggles to create value, then you become what we call the value creation kid. That's the upper right quadrant.
Wow.
If you have high confidence, but you don't have the capability, that's an entitled kid.
Yes.
Right? If maybe you have a lot of capability, but you don't have confidence. I think of one of our closest friends, their daughter's a teenage girl. She's extremely capable. But her confidence lacks. She's just timid. She's scared. She's nervous. Well, that's an anxious self-doubter category kid. So many kids fall into this. It's like 60% of teenage girls have some sort of a mental health anxiety or disorder right now. If you don't have capability or confidence at all, you fall into our low quadrant, which is the lazy victim. That's a kid that will not go through the healthy cycle, healthy struggle cycle. And that kid will actually not start creating value, and then they will blame others later on in life. It's not their fault. Somebody else didn't set them up right, didn't teach them. So what we want to do is give kids the personal responsibility to start creating value everywhere around them. And the confidence they get from learning the capabilities sets them up for life. It sets them up for success. And then the parents have that roadmap, like we said earlier, in the home to just ignite the fire, if that makes sense. We're teaching them how to have these conversations, how to set up the environment, how to set up the system for their kids to be creating this value. So that's why Value Creation Kid, which thanks to you for helping us name this correctly, value creation kid is the way to go. This
Mm.
is, it's already changing thousands and thousands of lives, the people that are putting these systems in their home.
That's right.
So that's the goal.
A couple things. Let's go. Yeah, A for Arizona. Talk to us.
Well, first, I wanted to add to that, for new parents out there, setting up a value creation environment in the household can start well before kindergarten. Kids are around this, are absorbing how people are talking about it. And then I encourage parents to think about this in their own lives. My other business, my other book is all about helping organizations create more value in the world. It has to be win-win.
Yes.
And it works incredibly well. So if parents start thinking about this, what's my value creation superpower? How do I create value in the world materially, emotionally, and spiritually?
Yep.
It's the right mix and everything else that goes in there. They have to kind of go down this journey as well and discover their value creation superpower. So I think that's really important. And then what ends up happening, and Scott's talking a lot about this, once the kids get into school and they start going through that K-12 journey, because they've made their primary motivation, drive, identity. I mean, just the value I create in the world. This is why I'm here.
Mm.
Spiritually, materially, emotionally,
Yes.
whatever that is, and everything's win-win, no win-lose. You can't do that. They are so much more intrinsically motivated and not subject to, do people like me? Did I get enough TikTok likes? All that kind of stuff that really doesn't matter, because when that stuff's going on, and they're creating value, that's fine. It's just noise, and they're going forward, creating additional value. So I think that's everything. So for new parents, you can't start too young, in my view. And then on the other side, what you're talking about with A for Arizona, Great Leaders, Strong Schools, Black Mothers Forum, and other nonprofits that are geared towards the K-12 journey in Arizona, we are all about creating better conditions for students to learn.
Wow.
And foundationally, again, I go back to low and middle income families. It's easy for Scott and I to have the resources to send our kids anywhere, to the best schools. The others can't. And so we've given away tens of millions of dollars in the last year and a half in innovation and transportation grants. So kids don't only have the low performing school option down the street. It opens it up to 5 or more schools they can go to. We've done a lot of work at identifying the higher quality schools that are out there. A lot of money we poured into innovation and learning grants. And then how do we scale that in the state and let it go? So we didn't intend to be exporting this stuff to other states right out of the gate, although we'd love it to go across the country. Several other states have been reaching out to us, and we've been helping them implement the same policies, get them through the state legislatures, and how to execute on transportation grants and everything else. And ultimately, I want to get to a place where we're influencing curriculum, because we really cared about kids. We teach them life skills.
Mm.
And when you look at all the money collectively across the country that's poured into education, the more money we put in, because the answer seems to be more money will solve it, it's almost directly proportionate to how much worse everything's getting on average, going across. What if we took a giant chunk of that and threw it into parent education and got more involved? What would be different there? Right. So there's so much work to do. This is a long game that I'm playing. And, I always sort of say in a joking way, but I'm pretty serious, actually. I love dystopian future movies. It's super entertaining. I'm a sci-fi fan. But if we go down the wrong road long enough, Scott and I will be living in that as we slow down.
Wow.
I don't want that. I mean, the kids today are going to be running the world that we slow down in. I don't like retiring. That's not a concept I understand. But I want it to be amazing, absolutely amazing. So selfishly, I'm doing all of this because I want a better world for myself, my family, my friends to interact with out there.
This book is practical wisdom. This is, I think Dan Sullivan said this one time, and this is why I'm so proud of Value Creation Kid. He said, the best books on earth take ancient wisdom that everybody forgot.
Wow.
And they move them back to the forefront. And that's what this is. It's first principles thinking. How do we get back to the roots of how a kid is successful when they leave the nest? This is it. We've spent a lot of time and money as a society moving in directions that aren't directly impacting our kids' future for the better.
Right.
So Value Creation Kid, I mean, we laugh. we wish that capitalism was actually called value creatism, because that's what it is. The economy is driven and growing by value being created. It's not just material value, like Lee said earlier. Material value comes from what you create and produce in the world. But there's more value to be created. Emotional energy value, like Lee said, is how you think, how you feel, your mindsets, and how you help other people elevate their emotional state. That is a critical value add in the world. And then on top of that, spiritual value is pretty simple. How can you connect others to something greater, right? Whether, obviously I'm a man of faith. God is big for me. I want to lift other people up. But you know what else was an increase in spiritual value? When we said we're going to put a man on the moon and return him safely in the 60s, the entire world got together and said, let's do it. Everybody was aligned. When you can, or any nonprofit locally in your neighborhood or your community is adding spiritual value to the people around you, it connects them to purpose. It gives you true joy, not just momentary happiness. That's what we're talking about. And so when a kid can have a lens to look at the world around them, starting at home, how can I make my parents' lives better? How can I make my life better? What can I do around my community, my neighborhood, with my grandparents, with my friends to add value? Last week we were with the great Sharon Lechter. She was over at Lee's house with a few of us, and we were talking about the national state of financial literacy. She's on every board you can imagine. She was asked by Obama and Bush to run financial literacy standards. And she's been beating this drum for 30 years. And she basically helped pass the torch to us. She's like, you guys, I think, have, with GravyStack and this method, the first way to go grassroots up, kids up, not system down, not school system down. You're going kids, families, and that will transform the world. She said something very interesting there. She said when her dad put her to bed every night, he would ask one question. What value did you create for someone today?
Gee, it's good.
And that has stuck with me ever since she said it every day. I'm like, that's what I'm going to start asking my kids. That's what I'm going to start asking other people. That is a powerful statement. And if you know her life, I would put her as the GOAT. Like, she is probably one of the top voices for financial literacy in the world over the last several decades. And if she was developed that way and she turned into who she is now at, in her late 70s and 80s, imagine what we can do if millions of kids are raised this way. Think about that for a minute.
Gee. Well, I got to show the page. You have this thing called the Igniter page, and I'm telling you, the amount of quality of people that have really gotten behind this. How and why do you think? And this is just starting, but I mean, you have Jim Quick, you have John Rulon. I mean, you have all these men and women, all different races. Dave Asbury, it's just amazing. Why are all these people jumping on board over this topic?
I think it's because nobody knows what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a fun example. Chase Bank spent $300 million last year on financial literacy. Did you ever hear about it? It was a PR move. Okay. No one knows how to crack this nut. And so with what we're doing, all the people that you saw on those pages, most of them have kids and nieces and nephews and grandkids. They're like, we desperately need to fix this one. So they are jumping. I haven't had anybody say no. They're like, how do I help? Who do I send it to? I mean, Chris Voss is a great example. Yesterday, we saw him in Chicago. He's got the best-selling book, Never Split the Difference. He's the world's most experienced hostage negotiator. He's impacted tens of millions of people. He walked up to me, said, what do I do? How do I help? Who can I send this to? Tell me, blank slate. How do we do this? This is one of the most important things for the next generation. It's that kind of energy. I can't explain. You were there the last couple of days.
It was amazing.
Top entrepreneurs in the world, they went crazy for this. Everybody was buying dozens and dozens of books for all their friends and all their nieces and nephews and grandkids and siblings and relatives, because they're like, yep, this is the way to go. And so I think we struck a nerve that people really resonate with, because it's going the wrong way right now. If you haven't noticed.
I alluded to it earlier, but here's the big thing that I believe everyone is missing.
Okay.
You know, I've talked to so many authors, wonderful people like Sharon Lechter and others that have spent, some of them, decades putting tools together, working with kids. But all of their stuff, in my view, at best, is a motivational nudge. Unless you operationalize this, so this is the environment that kids are in, they're not going to discover their value creation superpower. These tools are all amazing that these people have, but they need to be introduced in that environment appropriately. So over time, they figure it out. That's what they miss, like completely miss it. So I've in my various companies, I've employed thousands of people over the years, and we as leaders, when you run a company, we create the environment from which everybody creates value. And it was amazing to watch in the right environment. Over 80% of the people will discover their value creation superpower and act like a CEO of their own role. 20% to varying degrees won't. There's a small percentage that does nothing. But if we just do motivational nudges with kids, we're going to get 5%, maybe at most 3%, that it really changes their lives because they got a book by one author or something along those lines. But we create the right environment, and they're consistently being exposed to this concept of value creation and the healthy struggle sort of value creation cycle that we've been talking about, we'll get to over 80% of the kids. That's the difference. So everybody wants it. It's easy to talk about. That's the biggest thing that they're missing. They're not operationalizing it. And adults that say they get it, I watch some of those adults in their companies, and when they go through a healthy struggle for an adult to be able to create more value, something isn't going like they want, they're not embracing the struggle and saying, oh my gosh, this is great. When I come out the other side, I'm going to be able to create so much more value. A lot of times they act like victims. And those are the same people that are saying, wow, this makes so much sense. I want my kids to do it, because I think they believe if I just tell my kid this, they'll instantly be that person. So I can't stress it enough. Operationalizing value creation in the family is the single biggest missing piece. And it's missing in most organizations.
Yeah. You just nailed it, Lee. I mean, operationalizing is the key. This is why we say roadmap. Like it's a roadmap. Like it's a set it, you don't forget it, but you set it and you go roadmap. In fact, there's been several comments as I'm kind of looking through this, Lee and Kary. People are like, I got older kids. Why didn't you launch, Paul? I saw that. Why didn't you launch this before my kids graduated? I have a 15 and a 21-year-old. What do I do? You're never too late to start. You're a parent until you die. Okay. That's the goal. And if you have older kids, high school and older, give them the book. Let them read the book. I would actually advise you, go into the GravyStack app that's launching as we speak, the banking and investing app for kids and teens. That's what Lee and I have been developing with our team for the last 2 years. It's the world's first bank account for kids that actually teaches them financial competency through 100 games.
Wow.
And real life challenges. That's why we're doing this. GravyStack is that automated roadmap, and the book is all of the principles and philosophies behind GravyStack, the app. So get the app and start creating the home economy right now to teach them the gigs, get them their accounts, get them their debit card, their investing, their saving, their sharing, their spending accounts, and set up gigs. That's the home economy. And then add a brain gig. A brain gig is something they use their brain to earn money with, and give them the book to read. If they're in middle school, high school, and beyond, give them the book to read as a challenge inside the app, and let them learn this and have these conversations with them together. The more the kid doesn't have to live in your home even. There's a lot of people that bought our book that are co-parenting, their kids graduated, the kids might not live in their house all the time. That's the time to start having these great conversations. Here's what mom and dad are thinking of investing in. What do you think? Here's where here's where I'm thinking about donating to create value for our community. What do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Is there a better one? Like, have money conversations, have value creation conversations with your kids. And when you focus on that as your lens, then the kids will thrive that so much faster than any other way of going about it.
Yeah. Well, and something to really think about here is being comfortable with the concept of healthy struggle, right? So I talked to a parent recently, and she's got a couple of teenage daughters, And she says she absolutely loves this concept. I've talked to her a lot about the book and what we're doing, and she has it. And then in the very next couple of sentences, she's talking about her daughter and how she's trying to explain something to her because she doesn't want her to have to go through what she went through. So completely missed the concept,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So I can't, I don't think Scott and I can stress this enough. Be comfortable with healthy struggle. Let them bounce off the walls. I love the way Scott says it. They should never forget that we love them. They
Mm.
just shouldn't. That's unconditional.
Yeah.
And we want you to be this amazing value creating adult. So this is part of the journey, and this is our job, and this is the system that we've set up and how the household
Mhm.
runs to make that go. But adults that say they get it, because it probably took them 40 years to go, oh, wow, this concept makes so much sense. It wouldn't have made sense when they were a kid. Think, okay, great, we're just going to go do this. And they can't do it themselves.
Wow.
So that's the thing. We really got to think about that concept. Be comfortable with healthy struggle. So what would you add to that, Scott? Because that's like
Yeah.
such an important part here.
Every parent, out of love, they say, I just want to make sure my kids don't have to go through what I had to go through.
Mm.
I just want to make sure I can give my kids all the opportunities I never had. I want to buy the things for my kids that I didn't get growing up. Well, how do you think you became you? Like, you
Mm.
have to go, pressure builds diamonds, and you have to go through healthy struggles. On the other side of pain is the lesson,
Yeah.
right? And you can do it in a loving, deep, trusting environment with a great relationship with your kids. In fact, families that go through healthy struggles together and set up that environment have a deeper relationship. They
Wow.
have a more trusting relationship. There's no more of the dependency, the bribery for love, the coercion. Okay. The bank of mom and dad shuts down instead of rolling on into the 20s and 30s. Okay. Or even 40s, for God's sakes. But if you can have that lens,
Mm.
every decision you make as a parent, say to yourself, will this help my kid add value to the world?
Mm. It's a good
Material,
filter.
emotional, or spiritual? Will this decision we have to make add value or not? Right?
Wow.
That will help you guide you as you decide, when do I step in? When do I not?
It's
Do
great.
I let them try this new thing? Do I not? What are our family missions and values? Like Donnells, we're the Donnells. Donnells overcome. Donnells do hard things. Donnells leave things better. That's our number one value as a family.
Mm.
Donnells always leave things better. That is creating value. It was a simple way to explain it to our 2, 4, 6-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
We leave things better. We're going to clean the rooms before we leave, make them better than when we got there. We're going to make sure our friends feel better after we leave them than when we started being with them. We're
Wow.
going to make sure that our community is better for having a Donnell be a part of it. Our sports teams are going to be elevated by having a Donnell be a member of that team. We want other parents to want their kids to be at our house because whoever's going to be around a Donnell is adding value. It's adding value to their life after they're done.
Yeah. That's so good.
That's the point. Okay.
Yeah. So in the book, you, by the way, I love it. Read every single word. I love the part about your family with your distant relative who cuts off his hand and throws it on an island to claim it first. I mean, there's some awesome stuff in this book. Lee, I love the story about you with the struggle of being on stage with a famous rock musician.
Levi. There you are.
I mean, it's just a great book, but you also dip into cybersecurity protocol. And I read it, I'm like, wow. So, I mean, this book, in fact, I want to take you into the table of contents, folks. This is the beauty of this Amazon thing here. We can click look inside. And I like to do this with authors. I like to go inside the actual book and let's take a look and you kind of walk me through what I think we have the look inside feature. Yeah, we do. So let's talk about the table of contents and what are people going to get? Why did you write it as part 1, part 2, part 3? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when you go in the book, we have my favorite quote to launch the book is Albert Einstein: strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Right.
Mm.
That launches the whole book. It's such a brilliant, simple statement that everyone missed. And
Mm.
we have 3 parts of the book. Okay. Part 1 is the challenge, how to start the value creation journey early.
Mhm.
And struggle does not equal trauma. That's
good.
a critical piece here
Yeah.
that Lee was explaining. We're not talking about tough love. We're not talking about passing on neglect and abuse and like struggle isn't, you're not supposed to imprint trauma on your kids. That's not what a healthy struggle. That's why we call it healthy struggle.
Mm.
But in the book, we have over 90 healthy struggles outlined that are not taught in schools that kids need for life, right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
then we go into part 2, which is the GravyStack method, which are the 4 categories that Lee outlined earlier: value creation, house rules, financial competency, and then the healthy struggles that kids need to succeed.
Hmm.
And then last but not least, part 3 is the reward. So
Hmm.
the benefit to you, your community, your family, and the world by having this mindset and setting up this environment. And it is healthy communities solve for the most problems, best value wins, and then building a clear picture on what's possible. So trusting the work and continually opening up to bigger possibilities. Okay.
Hmm.
That is the setup and the table of contents for Value Creation Kit.
Love it.
And I would say for, for all the parents out there that are reading this book or watching this, whether your kids are young, teenagers, they're adults now, think about the value creating adult you want them to be. If they're in the K-12 journey or even before that, what are all the things that you're doing or can do in terms of setting up these healthy struggles for them to build capability and create more value that will launch them into the adults that you want? I mean, this is your time to create this environment to make these amazing humans that go into adulthood. What do you want? Scott and I have explained what we're shooting for, value creation adults that are totally self-reliant. They make a difference in the world. Everything is win-win. They make things better.
Mm.
But work backwards from that. I think that's really important to think that way. And is this struggle, is this environment we have helping them with that and going that direction? And Scott and I believe we have something here that is so simple to implement in a family, it'll actually save time.
Wow.
It'll save time because most especially low income families, I hear it all the time. They're working 2 or 3 jobs, each parent, to
Mm.
try to make ends meet. We don't have time for anything else. This will actually save time. Everybody understands what their job for the family is. You're not constantly reminding people what's going on. And as a family, you're talking about, as a family unit, collectively creating more value over time. This saves a ton of time once you get it going. And
So
How much time do parents spend on discipline,
Mm.
behavior, fighting,
Yeah.
problems in school, problems in sports, problems with friends?
Yeah.
It's like triage. Trust me, I've got 4, right?
Yeah.
It's triage. And little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems.
Wow.
Okay. This is a system to root out and weed out those issues. Okay. Once you create the value creation mindset in a kid, it becomes a self-managing family.
Mm.
I have a very good friend, Chad Johnson. Lee knows him well.
Yeah.
Chad Johnson is he's in, some of his stories are in the book, and he's got 11 kids. Okay.
Gee.
Ages 9 to 26 and 5 grandkids. He is kind of my mentor in family. Okay. He's been coaching families for 15 years, and his family is easier to run than having one kid. Those are his words. He has been applying these rules that are in Value Creation Kid to his entire family.
Yeah.
They have the system set. By the time that his kids are 8 to 10 years old, they're helping with all the other kids.
Explain that boot camp that he does with them.
Yeah, it's in the book. All the boot camps that he does, he trains his kids as like, you ever wondered, what do I talk about at dinner real quick? What do I talk about with my kids right now? He has, and we have a huge list of like 40 of them in the book. Just go through the boot camps. How does our family operate in a grocery store? How does our family plan for a trip and unpack when we're done? How does our family act in an airport? How do we act when we step into someone else's home?
Wow.
How do you tie a tie and tie a shoelace? Car maintenance, for goodness sakes. Like, the list is endless of ways that kids can learn to add value. And so in the book, we talk about this. Discipline is actually a lack of training when you see it. Most of our time with our kids where we're dealing with behavior and discipline stems from a lack of training. So their family has operationalized how to create value so well that the behavior issues are nil. Like
Wow.
they have really been able to train them. Like
Mm.
I wish my kids could just hang out with the Johnsons as much as possible. We love being around them. We ski
Yeah.
together. We try to get up as much as we can. It's just incredible. The sweet, I've heard this said, the sweet aroma when you walk into a home, I believe that sweet aroma is a value creation family.
Mm.
Always leaves things better, that always knows how to make someone materially, emotionally, and spiritually better. That is the sweet aroma. So
Yeah,
you
think
want that.
think about how much time that will save, but even more, how much more positive emotional energy would that create?
Wow.
And the reason I think it's the scarcest commodity on the planet is I'd rather live half a normal life with my emotional energy on 9 or 10 than a full life with it on 1 or 2.
Yeah. But this is so different than what the world is offering. I was looking on my Twitter feed yesterday, and there's somebody ranting about how their young child spilled popcorn all over the airplane, and the stewardess asked the adults to clean it up. And the person was like, "What gives her the right to do this?" Like, but that's the difference. You would say the value creation kid, the parent wouldn't do it. The kids would get down there and do it. But it's so foreign for
Yeah.
adults even.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have kids that come visit us with our friends, and some of them are just amazing, and they really do leave things better. Can I help with dishes after dinner and that kind of stuff?
Wow.
And I've got other friends that come over, and kids are lovely, lots of potential, but they're a tornado, and I spend an hour cleaning up after the wake of disaster when they went through the house.
Yeah.
And so what is the difference? So for all those parents that say, "I don't have time for this, we're too busy," if you wanna continue a very reactive household to all the
Mhm.
stuff going on, over a proactive value creation household where emotional energy rises, keep doing it, but this is a better way, and it's really easy to implement.
I love this book. Scott, tell that story about when you won the award for being the slowest kid on your baseball team, which is a healthy struggle, which I see today. There would have been all kinds of parents who like
Fire
got
the coach.
fired. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So,
happened? How did you improve?
yeah, I didn't grow up in a home where I got saved every time something went wrong. I grew up in a home that was like, all right, how are we gonna create value out of this? Simple as that. And that's probably why I'm sitting here today.
Mm,
Lots of parents try to fight to get their kid the A, even though the kid didn't deserve it. Lots of parents help the kid with the science fair project just so it looks cool in front of their friends. They fix their homework for them.
mm.
They fight to get them playing time. I had a friend, and it was ridiculous. The mom fired the driver's ed coach because her daughter failed the test. Okay.
Wow.
Like that doesn't help. That's not a healthy struggle. That is fixing and causing dependence.
Mm,
So when I was in freshman or sophomore year in high school, I was
mm.
like the last kid to hit puberty. And I got the award for being the slowest kid on the team. That was my award in front of like 200 parents and all the kids. And I was young. It was like, oh, it hurt so bad.
Hurts.
I was
Yeah.
so mad. And obviously my parents were pissed too. I was like, such a
Yeah.
dirty move. And I batted like a 520 RBI, like batting average. Like I crushed it. So it was frustrating. And I went home and I was just miserable. And my dad was like, "You want to fix this or be miserable?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like,
Mm,
"Well, what do you want to be next year?" I was like, "I want to be the fastest kid." He's like, "All right." Went out on the backyard. We found a 75 or 100-pound log, drilled a hole in it, put a harness on it. And we live near the beach, actually up on Whidbey Island up in Washington. And he said, every day you're going to run down the beach and back, towing this big old log. I
wow.
did it for the whole year. And the next year, I was the fastest kid on the team, like our second fastest behind Adam Diaz, the kid who was uh, D1.
Usain Bolt's
Yeah,
nephew or something.
basically Usain Bolt's son. It helped that I hit puberty too, but at the same time, like that trained me, right?
Wow.
Whenever my grades started to struggle, I would immediately go to the teacher and say, "How can I add the most value? What
Mm,
exactly do you need in this class?"
yeah.
And I always got the A.
Wow.
Right?
So
I was like valedictorian in high school, President's Cup top kid in university,
mm,
master's program, student of the year in the Texas Business Hall of Fame.
And I'm not that smart, man. I just knew how to add value for the teacher and the class.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Mm.
That's good. Lee, you tell a story. And again, folks, the reason why, I mean, you can tell I love this book. I'm not having notes here. I remember it all because they write brilliantly. They tell stories, but then they also link it to case studies. But Lee, you had a tough childhood where I think at the age of 18, you had your own apartment, or maybe 17, and you were working in the kitchen and you worked your way up, but you learned through healthy struggle these things. Can you give us a little bit of window into that?
Yeah, first, I think a really great question for your kids along the way is, what kind of adult would you like to be?
Mm,
And I've spoken to thousands of high school kids about the virtues of entrepreneurship and creating jobs. Anybody that creates a job is a hero of mine. And I ask questions like, do you feel better about yourself when you're self-reliant or dependent? And there's not even a
ooh,
microsecond delay. Self-reliant, like they all want to be that.
mm,
So get them owning into the intrinsic motivators of being the kind of adult that you've had a discussion with them about being about. So I think that's great. And then the boot camp and all the things to get there. So let's just rack and stack this stuff and start marching in that direction. It's an easy way to sort of plan it. But for me, and kind of going back to the value creation cycle, healthy struggle, build a capability, gain confidence, use that to create value. So by the time I'm 6, 7 years old, I'm pulling weeds in neighbors' gardens. It's
mm,
not family, it's not friends. These are people asking me. And of course, back then it's a quarter an hour. And I talk
right.
about this in the book. But that led to shoveling snow and then a paper route, then 4 paper routes, then a dishwasher, a busboy, a cook. And by the time I was kicked out of the house at the beginning of my senior year, so I'm 17, and it was a non-event. I slept one night in my truck that I purchased with my own money the year before, and I had an apartment with a roommate the next night. Back then, you'll get a kick out of this. A 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment was $235 a month. Woo! It's $6 an hour. I could easily afford that, and I'm playing now in clubs at rock and roll bands and making a lot of money that way too. So
Wow.
what it taught me is that I had an environment at home that was toxic and dangerous,
Mm,
and I don't blame my parents or anybody. They couldn't raise themselves, let alone the 5 of us kids.
mm,
So I totally got that. It was never about me, right? And I used all of those struggles, even though some of them are pretty unhealthy, to create even more value in the world and how we interact with others and how I understand and help them through similar situations.
mm.
But it's a non-event for me just to keep creating value. And I believed I could literally do anything I wanted to do. Put myself through my senior year in high school, went to a community college after that, mainly because I thought I was supposed to, when I'm just figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
Um, but it's incredible when you get kids or anybody on this value creation cycle wheel. Once they learn to trust the work, like, oh my gosh, this is really hard, but I've done it 5 or 6 times now. I know it builds confidence and
Yes.
running into the struggle, if you will. So that carried me through it. And I have siblings that didn't get through it so well because they didn't jump on any kind of value creation cycle at all.
Yeah.
But every single kid that I see that's learned to hustle and get on this wheel, it's incredible. And real quick here, so one of the things I absolutely love about what Scott's done, a previous company that he founded, Apex, that help millions of kids raise money for school programs. And then Scott's part of founding the Children's Business Fair. So I think they age out around 13, where they go sell their stuff. And then I want to fill the gap between there and my CEO groups that I run. So I run Execute CEO mastermind
Yeah.
groups, and they're limited to 8. But what about in the middle of it? And
Mm,
so we're putting our first group together of 6 kids have already gotten traction between that 13 and graduating high school. They've got 2 or 3 years of increasing revenue. So we're going to put together groups of kids in these junior CEO mastermind groups to help them create value significantly faster. They
wow.
already have the most valuable thing. Like Scott and I invest in early stage companies. There's a reason why 90% of them fail, because they didn't prove product market fit before they took all of our money and built it and hoped they would come. These kids already have traction. Over 90% of them will get there. And
Mm,
I'm going to love making micro investments in these kids and helping them and going along. So my vision is for every single group that I have and all of the certified folks running groups, each one of the members of those CEO groups is managing a kid group of 6 to 8.
Nice.
Imagine the dent that could make in things in a really positive way. It's exciting. So,
Good. That's so
Scott,
good.
I've been doing the same thing too. I just use the principles of the book, and every month a bunch of young guys come over, right out of high school, 21 years old. They come over, we round the campfire and we talk for 2 hours. And it's just picking my brain on
So good.
everything that creates value. That is a great way to impact the next generation. It's all the principles in the book.
So good. Let's wrap up here. We have just about 3 more minutes, but let's talk a little bit about the big vision. So if somebody just joined us, they're catching the last few minutes. Folks, we're talking about the bestseller, Value Creation Kid, comes out today, already dominating lists all over the world. It's in audio, ebook, hardcover, softcover. So the book comes out, but it's paired with the GravyStack app.
Yep.
And the GravyStack app is launching worldwide. And then you have this podcast,
Smart Money Parenting.
Smart Money Parenting. So it's like the trifecta of all domination here. But what's the goal? If we have this chat in 3 months or 3 years, what do you hope happens?
Yeah. So the goal is to launch a significantly higher percentage of young people into the world to create value, really change the next generation forever. And our mission at GravyStack is to create 50 million financially competent kids ready to succeed in the real world. And as Lee said, to be as financially independent as they want to be, as many of them want to be. Everyone wants that, but it's how do I get there? And so GravyStack is the world's first banking and investing app for kids and teenagers, ages 8 to 18. But the only way to teach a kid about money is through fun and real world experience with real money. You have to teach them. You can't homework your way to financial literacy. It does not work. This is why the school systems have failed this. So we created this bank account for kids and teens with 100 games that helps them become financially competent. And those games are not video games. Those games are puzzles and mini games where they compete with friends, and a bunch of real life challenges for them to learn everything about saving, spending, sharing, investing, earning, protecting their online security, borrowing, creating value, skills, and traits. And so it's a really fun, intrinsically motivated way for kids to create a grassroots movement to launch themselves into the world to be financially competent. And the parents get to come along for the ride and secretly learn along the way, right?
Wow.
And that's why the book has the GravyStack method inside of it. It's the principles and philosophies behind the app. So all of the thinking of the app is in this book. And then the Smart Money Parenting Show, which just hit #2 worldwide for families about a week and a half ago. That is out. I'm doing that with Chad Willardson, author of Smart Not Spoiled. He's also on our team with Lee. And we've got an incredible team of people that are going to get this out to the world. So the app, it launches in the next few days. So you can join the wait list at gravystack.com. You can also just read the book and you'll see the systems that are behind it. And you'll get a long ways by reading the book.
That is amazing.
And next level, I want to see 50 million in climbing value creation families out there.
Yes.
And Scott and I have given all the tools to put this in the family, the whole methodology, if you will, to make this a living, breathing thing. And then Scott and the team have done a great job developing tools to make it even easier. So the GravyStack app and the communities that we're putting together, it'll make it easier for you to go even faster.
Wow. And I love what you also said, an example, and we'll land the plane here in about 2 minutes. But even like a grandparent who says, gee, I wish my kid would read that one book that I know is going to help them. They could go into the app and create a brain gig, and the kid could read the book and then get paid. I mean, that's crazy.
We've thought of almost everything to help a kid become financially competent value creation kids.
Wow.
And we have 30 patents on the app, by the way. We're not just helping families, we're reinventing the banking system. So why do you have checking accounts if no kid's ever going to write a check, Kary?
I don't know.
Nobody looks at their monthly statements. Why are they baked in secretly? It's because banks make money when you're bad at banking and you're not financially competent.
Wow.
So our bank for kids and their families is actually creating the entire system. We have the money machine.
Yeah.
which shows the flow of all their money into their save, spend, and share accounts, auto transferred through an animated video, and all of these characters that help them learn the principles of value creation. And then there's a whole home gig system where kids learn how to set the expectations from mom and dad of what I do in the home for free, my expenses that I'm in charge of covering, which parents start setting up for them, and then their extra pay, the home gigs, the ways they can earn money to cover those expenses. That's how financial literacy starts. That's how you teach value creation. So the app has it all automated. The map is in the book, Value Creation Kid. And we're not going to stop till we hit 50 million families. So this is a long-term goal for us, but anybody that wants to help us, please go to gravystack.com/igniter.
Yes.
If you want to be, interview me, interview Lee, if you want to share it out to your lists, get the word out, you can go to gravystack.com/igniter and sign up and join us and become one of our financial literacy ambassadors with that list of folks that are already in.
So good. Folks, I believe they're going to achieve it. The book comes out today. The app comes out next week. Tag a parent, share it. I think you also have some great bonuses, and I know that they can get those also. Just go to gravystack.com and you'll be part of the community. They have a parent elite community. They've even thought about, should we have allowances, and are allowances actually toxic? Are they negative? And so you guys have thought of everything. I'm so honored to be your publisher, and go to gravystack.com, get your copies today. It's 99 cents ebook. The audiobook is killer. The paperback hardcover. Scott, Lee, big congrats to you.
Thanks so much, Kary. And thanks for helping us with the book, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, make it a great day. We'll see everybody.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart money parenting.